day 2 of processing. Day 1 was kind of making sure we were set up, make sure we had all the right stuff, blah, 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 all that good jazz. We ended up getting 4 completed yesterday. We weren't going to do any yesterday, but 1 couldn't walk. Day before yesterday, it could walk. It was alive, it was fine, it was healthy, but it was stuck on its back with both feet out in front of it, and every time it tried to get up, it couldn't get up. Even when I'd pick it up and set it on its feet, it would just kind of plop over sideways. So yeah, it was time for that one to go. We called him Parmesan. He's gone. So we did 1 rooster, 3 hens. We got, and it was funny, the one that couldn't walk was the smallest of all the roosters. So I don't think it was a size thing. I think maybe someone picked on them, or I don't know. But after I didn't do a pre-processed weight. You know, we didn't take the live birds and set them on our scale here. But post-processing weight, you know, defeathering them, taking the feet and the guts out, the head off, neck out. The actual meat that is going to go into a bag is, we got 5 pounds, 5.2 pounds, 5.2 pounds, and 5.4 pounds. The rooster was one of the 5.2 pounds. The hen, there was a hen that was 5.4. So we got these all processed, sitting in an ice bath for 24 hours. That is very cold. I'm not sticking my hands in there today. Let them age for 24 hours before we put them in the vacuum pack bags and put them in the freezer. So we'll take this other cooler, got some ice water in it. We'll put them in here first, let them get kind of chilled a little bit before we put them in the main ice bath. And then about the time we start processing the remaining, these guys can probably be moved out and put in the freezer. But I don't know, we'll get that far, we'll see. So after our water gets up to the correct temperature, it's getting there, it's starting to steam a little. We'll start on the chickens. I will say our super handy plucker, I rinsed it out, but not super well, because super handy didn't need to be super clean whenever we're going to use it again within 12 hours. But I did rinse it out. This little contraption here did a decent job for collecting feathers. I realized, I don't know why I was in a hurry yesterday as we got set up. This was the lid to the pool whenever they were chicks. We took a big pool, clamshelled with the top cut off, and then put this one on top. And I would just move this one as I put food in and out, you know, food or water for the chicks. So had some hardware cloth down here, just plain old cheesy hardware cloth that I used to leave on top. So I just put it on the bottom and let the chute dump all the feathers right in the corner, and then I put all the feathers in the gut bucket and dumped it down where the local critters can reassimilate the insides of the chickens and the feathers. So our process was, once we ironed it out, hang them from the rope, let them drip in the bucket. This white one that my dog is now drinking out of, dunk them in there a couple times. We'd hose them off on the rope just to get all the first layer of grime off. Dump them in the bucket a few times to get the second layer of grime off. Soak them in the 145-ish, 150 degree water until the feathers plucked out easy. That's just a second pot of water that we kept warm, so that as the chickens cooled this down, we could just dump water in to keep this right around 145, 150. Then put them in super handy. Didn't take long. I was impressed by how well this thing worked. From super handy, I'd take them over to the processing table. My wife would start standing on the uphill side. She would start working on them, and while she was starting to do the initial processing, I would go grab the next chicken, let it hang from the rope. So this process over here was starting with the chicken, the rinsing, the second rinsing, the getting the feathers loose, depucking, and then I'd come over here and help her finish whatever she was doing on the first chicken, saving the heart, livers, and feet. Those go in one zip. The heart and livers go in one bag. The feet and the neck go in a different Ziploc bag. Everything's rinsed really well, put in the buckets. And then I'd help her finish up. And about that time, the one that was over here was nice and dripped out, so then we could just keep a cycle going. And that seemed to work pretty well for us. in this little zone. So we will continue on this process today and get the rest of these all squared away. Now, the mistake yesterday we had, because like I said, we weren't planning on doing any, is we fed them in the morning, which gave a giant sack right up by the on the front of the breast meat, to the side of the esophagus, and just a giant sack of corn and pellets and whatnot, which was, so the 4 that we did yesterday, that ended up being all wasted and thrown in the gut bucket, so that it just got thrown away. They're pecking at the ground, just, they're hungry, they want food, but they're not going to get fed today because I don't want to deal with that. We had to actually cut that blob off because it wouldn't pull through with the insides. Lesson learned, but like I said, we didn't know we were going to do any processing yesterday. And the cool part was, this is where God makes things the way they need to be made. I'd grab a hen over here, one of these hens, you know, you start doing the spinning to get all the blood to the head so that they can kind of go wonky and fall asleep. The hens would make some ruckus at first, and I would get at least 2 roosters would come over and start making noise at me. What are you doing to my hens? And it was just interesting to see. We got these guys somewhere between 1 and 10 days old. I don't know how old they were when I went and picked them up from the feed store. They didn't go to school to learn how to protect their flock. So I think that's interesting how God builds that, just instinct in. That these roosters that don't move much, they get up, they walk over to where the food is, they sit down and they eat the food around that area, then they get up, they move to wherever the food is, sit down and eat in that area. They don't move much at all. But yet they came all the way around the coop. They came all the way around the coop and came down here around to where I was spinning them over in the grass, and were giving me grief. Right here. This is how far the roosters move from the coop. That one up by itself, that's a long walk for these guys. And I think the only reason they're moving so much today is because they haven't had food and they think I'm going to feed them. So these are Cornish cross. These are about 9 weeks old. We let them get too old, but that's just the way our timing went. But you see, they can get up, they can move. They're not crippled, they are free range, but they get food and whatnot. But these are definitely not sit on a perch birds. They do their thing, and then they wait to be processed so they can give us some nourishment. But yeah, these roosters would come all the way around, down around over into the grass back over there, and give me grief for making the hens have a lot of noise. I thought that was interesting. So I'm not going to go into gory video, just talk about the process. There's nothing processed about nature. Where do you think the chicken comes from that you eat at the store? Same thing. They're probably more efficient and faster. Well, there's no probably about it. But I'm not going to show processing and all that. Talk about what we did. And then in the end, it just looks like chicken. It looks like something you go in the store and buy, you know, rotisserie chicken from the little machine by the checkout aisle. Other than it's not cooked.